In your previous statements last week, you talked about they would go on to, after the process, they would go back onto a retention election, and you would be more or less making a retention election an election. Is that correct?
Senator Kelsey?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is correct. At the end of the 8-year term for a full term, or at the next August election for a vacancy, there would be a retention election under the language of this constitutional amendment.
If we say we do pass this constitutional election or constitutional amendment, what would happen in the meantime between implementation? If I'm not mistaken, we've sunset the judicial selection process. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Kelsey?
That legislation is up for a vote this year. That is correct.
Mr. Campfield?
So if the judicial selection process is sunset and we do pass this constitutional election, if I'm not mistaken, there will still be a 2-year window where we do not have any ability that I know of. Do we have any ability, or what is our system for, say there is a vacancy, to fill that position?
Mr. Kelsey?
At the time that the constitutional amendment is adopted, if it is to be adopted by the people, then at that time it will trump all other laws that are on the books at that time, and it will govern how this election takes place, and it sets forth those methods, which is, of course, appointment by the governor and confirmation by the legislature.
Mr. Campfield?
Thank you. One last thing. I mean, I'm probably standing with some other my fellow members. That while there may be an argument for this system, I do not agree with giving away our right to vote or the people's right to vote. I've always thought that what we are doing is a corruption of the word election. I do not like the system that we are in right now, but I think it is because of just the corruption of the word election, not necessarily the Constitution being bad. I think what we need to do is correct that word, not the Constitution, and get us back to what we originally founded, or our founding fathers wanted, which was giving the people a right to vote. Senator Nicely spoke very eloquently on what the people have said. And I would hope that people would keep that right to vote. I believe in voting. I believe the problems with democracy can be solved with more democracy. And what we're doing is taking that democracy away from people and taking people's right to vote away from them. A retention election isn't a realistic election. It's virtually no one, only one person has ever been removed from office by a retention election, and that was after a humongous campaign. It never gives a person an equal opportunity to run one person against another like a traditional election does. And therefore, I'll be voting against this. Thank you.